We're good to go. We're good, Rich. All right, well, hello everyone. Welcome to the 37th International Seating Symposium. My name is Mark Schmeler. I am the Vice Chair of Education and Training here in the Department of Rehabilitation Science and Technology at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm also a practicing occupational therapist at the Center for Assistive Technology at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. So I don't know what to say. I'm not sure that there's words to acknowledge what needs to be acknowledged related to what's happened over the last almost 2 years, but we're here. We may not be here in the manner we thought we would be, and I certainly don't want to spend too much time revisiting the past, but it seems, you know, it was just 2 years ago, or not quite 2 years ago, that we all convened in Vancouver for the 36th International Seating Symposium at a time when COVID was making its way into our world. Who would have thought, right? Well, as I said, we're here, we made it. I think that's a testament to this industry, the people that work in it, that we are pretty hardy people. We problem solve, we've got perseverance, and we figure out how to get things done. So with that, I want to acknowledge your dedication to the ISS, but I think more so your dedication to the industry that we work in, not just because of the great technologies and the things we do, but what I've noticed and been proud of, and I think all of us have been proud of the last almost 2 years, figuring out how to get things done. Our problem solving ability, our dedication, as I said, and making sure that the people that we serve are continuing to get what they need no matter what. I think it's most important right now also to acknowledge that it's been a while since we've all been together. I think this virtual platform is going to work very well. I think it's going to present many opportunities for us and for people that can't necessarily get to in-person conferences. So being able to be here, I think sharing a lot of our ideas, the things that we've learned over the last couple of years or so, is really important now at this point, to share with each other, learn from each other, and move forward. We're certainly not out of the woods. There's still a lot of global turmoil going on right now, but there's no doubt that what we've demonstrated over the last couple of years will certainly carry over into what we do in the future. So at this point, I want to welcome you, and I want to give John Pearlman a moment to welcome you to the ISS as well.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everybody. My name is John Pearlman. I'm the chair of the Department of Rehab Science and Technology here at Pitt. And I want to thank you all for coming. This has been quite a feat to shift so quickly to an online platform, and it's bittersweet. We all enjoy the in-person time together, but it also gives us a chance to bring in and connect with people that may not have already been able to make it to Pittsburgh this year or last year. And I want to give tremendous kudos to the team here at Pitt, who's been able to pull this together, and the team that has supported ISS around the country and around the world. And I wish you an excellent conference, and look forward to working with you and engaging with all of you on the online platform. Thanks.
All right, thank you, John. I can't move my slides here. There we go. So before we get going, like John said, I think it's important to acknowledge the great team that we have here at the University of Pittsburgh. Some of you may recognize some of these people. There's certainly new people. I think first and foremost, Rachel Hibbs. Rachel came on as the Director of Continuing Education right when we were in Vancouver. I think she didn't quite know what she signed up for, but she's just done an amazing job of stepping in, figuring out how to get things done. Many of you know Rich Shine. He's always a solid guy in the background that makes sure that getting things done. He's actually standing right to my right now, making sure that I'm doing what I need to do. Carl Kemmerer has joined now as the manager of continuing education. We've got Joe Ruffing, who you know well, that runs a lot of our graphics and operations in the background. Today, he's a lot to do with the data infrastructure that we have and registrations. And Barry Steelman came on board. It's running point on our exhibit hall. And Julie Harrison just joined us less than a couple of months ago help with last minute logistics, especially with the volunteers. So I personally, I know I don't say this enough to the team, but extremely proud of what they've done and what they've been able to pull together. I think it's going back even to 2 years ago when we were getting ready to start the symposium and COVID hit, and we've had to shift several times. We had to redo our website, and just the first week of January, the last week of December is when we had to make the unfortunate decision to just make this go live, which pretty much required redoing all of our infrastructure to make it happen. So just absolutely impressive at how quickly they were able to pull this together. So thank you for that. Our board of advisors has also played a critical role, and I think they deserve some acknowledgement here. We have Anna Allegretti, Kendra Betz, Felipe and Jerry Dickerson, Carmen DeGiovane, and Julie, Wayne Grapes, Brian Rourke, and Emma Smith. They've been a great sounding board as we've had to make some tough decisions over the last year or so as we move this conference around, chasing COVID and other factors that impact us around the world. So the other important part too is there's going to be several volunteers behind the scenes. I mean, these conferences just don't happen automatically. Becky Russell, who's a physical therapist in our clinic, alongside Julie Harrison and Joe Stratman, who you've many met in the past, have done an outstanding job of putting moderators and monitors into the session. You'll see them in the background in many of the sessions that are taking place. So they certainly deserve an acknowledgement. Many of the volunteers are also our colleagues, but also students. And we want our students to be able to experience the symposium, but I think most importantly, network out there with all of our colleagues in different places. Many of them will certainly be looking for employment opportunities as they graduate from our programs. So, but I think most importantly is I want to reach out to the speakers and thank you all for submitting your proposals and following in suit with our theme, which is showing our value. I'll just spend a moment to just highlight some of this and where it comes from. Value, it can be defined in a lot of different ways. In healthcare, we tend to look at value as cost and quality. Unfortunately, when you look at wheelchair seating and mobility, value, especially to external stakeholders, specifically payers, look at it as just a cost. And there's really more to what we do related to the value. So when you think of innovation, I think there's still been quite a bit of innovation going on. That's why Barry Dean's one of our opening keynote speakers, because he really is a testament to thinking out of the box and continuing to move the industry forward. And it's not just Barry, we're seeing that across a lot of manufacturers, a lot of designers out there, a lot of startups. And we want to continue to foster that kind of environment to keep moving this industry forward. But we also have best practices covered in this conference, looking at ways we've improved the way we do things, making sure those things are documented so that they can be well reflected in the standards of practice, professionalism. And I think what's really coming around right now is our outcomes. But without outcomes, we need data, we need research, and we need everything that feeds into that. And now, with policy being what it is, we want to tend to focus back on that, revisit it, and look at it from a global perspective. There's sort of a perspective that I want to look at things now. We have evidence-based practice, and I think we need to hold policymakers to evidence-based policy. So with that, also ethics is important, and then accountability plays right into what we view as value. A big theme that obviously emerged is what's happened because of the pandemic and the strategies that we have developed. And this is why I'm glad we're having the conference. I'm glad that there are so many people that are able to join the conference, and then we'll be able to talk more about what have we learned, what do we need to hone in on, what do we need to refine, and what do we need moving forward. And telehealth has certainly played a very pivotal role in how we continue to deliver services. Brad Dicianno is going to cover a lot of that in his opening keynote, but there's many sessions. I was very impressed looking through all of the sessions and seeing how much there is on telehealth, as well as all the other great topics that have evolved. And I think online education, telementoring, just our whole connectivity and innovation surrounding that has a lot of opportunity as we move forward. So I look forward to hearing from all of the speakers, and the fact that they're all being recorded hopefully will allow us to all go back and look at it. I say we could binge watch ISS for the next few months if we're really looking for something, a relief from maybe Netflix or the other streaming apps that are out there. Another great thing that we've been able to pull together for this ISS is a good collaboration with RESNA. RESNA is one of our very important partners. They are the organization that represents us, especially here in North America. And that's why it's important to bring in some topics that may not be directly related or may not be specifically about wheelchair seating and mobility, but are directly related. So a lot on the RESNA position papers. We've got some new ones that are just about to be finished up. They're going to be presented for public comment and more feedback. Sessions on ethics, accessibility, transportation, augmentative communication, service delivery, integration of technologies, and how we coordinate all of this, as well as certification and standards associated with our industry. There you go. So with this, I will turn it over to Rachel Hibbs. As I mentioned, Rachel Hibbs is the Director of Continuing Education in our department and has been playing a pivotal role in the delivery of the International Seating Symposium. So to you, actually, I'm out of sequence here. Rachel's going to go after this, but the next person that'll be up is Barry Steelman. But I think the thing I wanted to mention here was thanking the exhibitors who have stuck with us. So the attendees who have stuck with this, I think, are important to be acknowledged, but more so the exhibitors. Now, we'll talk about this right up here. You know, virtual exhibit halls is not something that I think made a lot of sense when I first heard about it about 2 years ago, but it really does make sense if you do it correctly. We put a lot of effort into it, and I commend Barry Steelman for the hard work that he has put into it, but there's about 35 or so exhibitors that will be virtually attending here at the conference, and I'm going to give Barry a moment to walk you through what that looks like.
Great, thank you, Mark. And welcome everyone to the 37th ISS virtual conference. This is our first virtual conference. Our exhibitors, they're a big part of our success. Their support helps us bring you a successful conference and an exhibition. So make sure you show your support to our exhibitors by going and visiting the virtual booths. And that's actually easy to do. When you're logged into the attendee hub, you'll see a tab at the top that says Expo. You simply just click on that tab, and that will take you to a list of our exhibitors. You can search the exhibitors a couple of ways. You can scroll and just click on their logo, or you can type in the exhibitor name and it should bring up their icon. You click on that icon, it'll take you directly to the virtual booth. So once you enter their booth, you have a couple of ways to interact there with the booth staff. The top one, the first one is you can meet now. So any staff that's live, you can do a one-on-one Zoom meeting with them, ask questions, do a one-on-one product demonstration. You can also do a chat, and you can chat with the exhibitors that are the booth staff that's in the booth. You can schedule a meeting if no one is available, or you can just simply leave your information for contact later down the road. While you're in there, you can, if you can scroll down to the bottom, you can view videos, you can download sales material, you can click on links for websites and product information. Now, a lot of our exhibitors this time, they are offering live product demonstrations via Zoom link. They're going to be using their own Zoom link, and they're going to have schedules in their booth. You can see here where they're saying that the links are down below. Once you click on that link, you're going to enter their Zoom meeting. They're going to be given product demonstrations and product information. Just because we haven't been in person doesn't mean that our exhibitors have not developed some really good technology and really good products that I think you guys need to see. I also wanted to say that during the unopposed times and in between sessions, just make sure you drop by and visit them. The virtual booths are also going to be available to view for the remaining of the year, basically until the next ISS. So make sure you keep this information go and visit our virtual exhibitors. Their support means a lot to us and a lot to you. And thank you for helping us make this a very successful 37th ISS. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so I'm just going to review a few logistical things. Like Mark said, my name is Rachel Hibbs. I'm an assistant professor and the director of continuing education at the University of Pittsburgh Department of Rehabilitation Science and Technology. For those that don't know me, I'm a physical therapist and ATP by background and practicing still a few days a week. So things to review there are virtual meet and greet events that you can attend live from the attendee hub. This evening from 7 to 8 p.m. There will be a Latin American group, NARTS, and the VA having meet and greets this evening from 7 to 8. Again, click on the link in the schedule in the attendee hub. And then tomorrow there are 3 more from 5:45 to 6:45 p.m. NCART, the Clinician Task Force, and RESNA, again, after the last instructional courses available in Attendee Hub. Additionally, the International Society of Wheelchair Professionals will be having a morning breakfast, so to speak. If you are interested in attending that, the link will be provided in the notification announcements. That one is not linked in the Attendee Hub. Some additional logistics, if you log in through the Attendee Hub for all sessions, the virtual exhibit hall, that is your home base for the virtual conference. Again, all CEUs will be available, or all sessions will be available for CEUs for 1 year for people who are registered attendees. And to receive these CEUs live or asynchronously after the conference, watch the session. The moderator or session monitor will provide the CEU code in the last few minutes of the session, both verbally and in the chat. If you click on the survey button to the right of the screen, you will take the survey, the session evaluation, and type in the code there to receive CEUs. So it is my honor to introduce our 3 plenary speakers this morning. First, we have Barry Dean, the co-founder of Lucy, who will present Building to the Need, Not the Code, observation of what's really driving mobility. Barry will share why advocating for innovation is one of the most important ways to serve the person in the chair. Kendra Betz, a physical therapist and ATP who works with the Veterans Health Administration, will present high reliability healthcare, global implementation for wheeled mobility and seating. And Brad Dicianno, a physician, medical director of the UPMC Center for Assistive Technology, will present the new normal, telehealth in 2022 and beyond. So with that, again, my honor to introduce Barry Dean. He's a Grammy-nominated songwriter, co-founder of Lucy, and most importantly, has 2 adult children who use power wheelchairs. Since its launch in 2020, Lucy has been honored by Time, Popular Science, Consumer Technology Association, Mobility Management, and Fast Company in the areas of accessibility, engineering, health and wellness, and smart technology. Prior to becoming a songwriter and producer, Barry led strategy and marketing development efforts for a leading STEM curriculum and supply company in the education field.
Well, thank you for that. Thanks for letting me be here. Good morning, everybody. I'm so grateful to Dr. Schmeler for the opportunity to spend a few minutes just talking around the challenges about innovation in this industry. And so I'm excited about this. Dr. Schmeler asked me months ago to do this, and he said, "I want you to tell it like it is. And I hope I can live up to his expectations." But I told him I'm only doing this because he asked, and I was going to tell everyone that he asked me to do this. He wanted me to answer the questions around why isn't there more innovation in our industry? And certainly we've already seen, I think this year, and we'll see more innovation than we have in recent years. But I love the way our mutual friend Michelle Lang says this. The chair has not been living up to the potential of the person in it. And that's why we're all here, is to advance that and to change that. It is such an honor to be a part of the International Seating Symposium. My friend and teacher, Gene Minkle, refers to this as a great family reunion, a gathering of like-minded folks who all love providing opportunities for people who are needing mobility assistance and living with mobility disabilities. So I feel incredibly honored to be invited here to this get together, virtual or otherwise. And I do give a shout out to the team up there, Barry Steelman and Mark and the whole gang, Rachel. The work your whole team has done to pivot again and go virtual. Everyone is so grateful for you and the work you've done. That's what I wanted to say. And truth be told, I'm just the opening act for Kendra Betz. She has been a genuine new friend to me on this journey, and it's an honor to be her opening act. So I'll try to keep this short and sweet and move through this so we get to the big show. By way of introduction, as Rachel said, I'm a songwriter, which means I tell long, sometimes maybe mostly pointless stories and then make them rhyme. So I wrote this down in order to protect you, the innocent, from my songwriter side nature. But I'm also a dad, and I'm a father of Catherine. My daughter's 21 and she has cerebral palsy. And my son Alex has Friedreich's ataxia, and both of them are in powered chairs. This is my 6th ISS. I was quietly sitting in the back and all those others taking notes, trying to find answers. And just like starting Lucy, it all sort of began with my daughter and trying to solve and find solutions for her. And so before we talk wheelchairs, I'd like to tell a strange, and it's kind of a weird, funny, true story that was my introduction to solving complex problems, kind of like complex rehab and innovation. Jennifer and I, my wife Jennifer and I, had 3 concerns we were trying to solve when Catherine was very young. You know about our intention to have safe, responsible, real-world mobility. That's Lucy. But we were also looking to figure out how to build the aging in place adapted space for living with a disability, because we were going to grow older and so was Catherine with us. And finally, this may seem small, but Catherine was drooling a lot when she would sleep, a lot. The pillows and the pillowcases are being replaced and rolled out, but her skin was getting irritated and it was just a problem. And we thought, couldn't we do better in this one small thing? So I asked a well-known doctor who advises us, a friend of ours. I said, do you have any ideas for this? And she relayed that she deals with the same problem and it creates all kinds of skin issues, but she didn't have any other ideas than what we were doing. So the first thing that my brother Jared and his wife Agatha and Jen and I worked on was that problem, this pillowcase problem. And within weeks or months, the short order, there was a solution created. It wicked away the saliva from her skin. I mean, it was like a ShamWow, those of you who are my age. And it felt great. It felt like cotton or flannel sheets, and yet it kept the moisture from her skin. We had researched new textiles and fabrics and ways of layering and created this solution. We made, 15 or 20 of them or so. And I was thrilled to show it to the doctor. So we'd been using it successfully, and I brought a stack of them to her to share with her and maybe other patients who could try it. We were just thinking maybe we found a way to solve a little problem. Now, it's a little thing. I understand that. It's not the number one thing anybody's dealing with. But if you make life a little better, why not? So the doctor was amazed. She loved the way it worked. And, saliva isn't water. So we explained how to make, artificial saliva. And the doctor loved that. The viscosity is different than water, except for one thing. The doctor preferred the feel of satin or silk. That was her preferred feel. So she said, could I just put a silk cover over this? Well, yeah, but that fabric you put over it would defeat the purpose. Well, she asked, could we make it out of silk instead, or satin? And maybe you'd get the feel, but not the material. It is in fact the layering, the combination of the material that allows the technology and textiles to do the wicking and create the success. So she said, I'm just not going to use it because I only like the feel of silk, on my face. And that's fine. But here's the part I found interesting years later as I look back on it. And maybe it gives us a way of looking at our innovation in industry. She handed the whole stack back to us. In other words, none of the patients with similar issues would ever see this because her preference, her need, her favorite fields. That meant it wasn't worth sharing with the hundreds of families she comes in contact with that might need a solution like that. We brought it back to Nashville, and they sat around, we handed them out to friends. We would meet other parents with kids like Catherine, and they would say, we're having this problem. We say, hey, you know what? We've got some of these, try them. And so they get used all the time, and I hear about them. We're gonna have to make some more. But it's a story to remind us that there's a lot of ways that good things get thrown to the side. There's lots of little ways that innovation can die in an industry. If I had been trying to bring that into the pillowcase industry, I probably would have been told right off the bat that there isn't a code for it, so I shouldn't bother. Some manufacturers would have told me that the regulatory would be impossible. Suppliers or providers might have told me that I need to triple the price and give them exclusivity, or they wouldn't even offer it. And of course, then I'd hopefully get to the clinic. And there, the clinician may only be getting their new product information from their supplier, maybe their exclusive supplier. And maybe they're the type of clinician that leaves most of it up to the sales ATP. And so after all those hurdles, if you go through all those as a company, the only person who hasn't received a clear, easy shot at knowing about a solution was the person and the caregivers who deal with a whole lot of drool when they sleep. We wisely didn't go any further down the pillowcase road, but our deep dive and research into textiles and that kind of technology are going to be coming into play soon. The fact is, we have been blessed and so grateful to have incredible partners who've been excited and positive and allowed us to meet so many of you and be welcomed into your clinics and meet so many of the people you care about. Still, the fact is, with that product as an example, like so many, you might be better off if you want to help folks and get products to the users, if you want to serve the drooling pillow users and their families with something innovative. There are legitimate reasons why you might be better off not to bring it into the industry, not bring it to the trade convention, just avoid it altogether. And that's a shame. I have met so many of you in the last 6 years. I have seen how much you care. The fact that you're here this morning, the fact that they've pivoted this whole thing so that we can still push forward, that says everything, especially those of you who are part of this conference. And it's something we can continue to work to change to make the industry more inviting. So this is the first place new innovation should come. And we're trying to help lead that. We started Lucy knowing the odds were long. We know that users want innovation and that you want to see innovation too. And most importantly, my family lives the need every day. Life demands innovation. And we weren't willing to wait my daughter's life for a balance sheet to tell someone they should do something that should already exist. We have run into all the challenges I described above and more, and we've been attacked and threatened and we've been dismissed. We've also been welcomed and worked with and partnered with, and we started working with a production company, for example, on a documentary, and we weren't really taking it that seriously. And now that has become a very compelling story. But I expect to see more innovation this year and next year in this industry than we've seen in a long time, because frankly, Lucy exists and we've been sharing our vision. You know, Judging Smart we put out when we came out, because we knew by saying making wheelchairs smarter, everything was going to get labeled smart. And so we felt it was a responsible thing to do, to say, look, this is the roadmap we're walking down. This is how we're defining these terms. That's the reason we put out the safety report, to say, we think this is the standard for how things should be tested. And we're beginning to see acceptance and see the industry move. For people who are considering starting a new company in this area, I can tell you it's not for the faint of heart. I've learned that. Millions of dollars and 5 years of working are just now being shown. Some companies and folks get confused. They'll say, you're moving too fast. We've spent time with the Gleason Foundation and lots of wonderful clients and riders and drivers. And the fact is, time and the status quo can be the enemy. Some folks think you're just throwing things out too quick. Well, we're not throwing things out. It's anything but that. We worked 3.5 years before we even announced we existed. The speed you're seeing now, we paid for in time and investment over these last years. And so now we're seeing awesome things happen now. But the fact is, something like Lucy Air that we just talked about, it was completed before we even announced the company exists. So if you're a young company trying to move into this space, get to reach out to us. We'll try to reach out to you. Lucy will be here to come alongside you. Innovation will come out of pressure from outside the industry. That's why we've been building bridges. We did a panel at South by Southwest, Fortune Brainstorm Tech Conference, at the Consumer Electronics Show. Jared, specifically my brother, his role in the CES, CTS, a new policy paper on data privacy with artificial intelligence, making sure that inclusion is included in those recommendations. And our work with the Smart Cities Initiative. Just over the weekend, a friend of mine's brother-in-law was in a hit and run. He was crossing a street in his wheelchair, hit and killed. In the future, as smart cities evolve, we want to make sure that our mobility is connected to the larger mobility space. But it's also from pressure from inside the industry. We're so grateful to those partners in the industry who have stuck with us and helped us and believed in us and taught us. We are committed to this because we believe independent mobility is a right, and therefore safety is too. My daughter, my son, your clients, they have the right to a future just as bright as everyone else's. And that means we have to allow innovation and change to accommodate that. We can't continue to accept a status quo where, looking at stats from the FMA labor tracker database and PIT research, showing us that 60% of wheelchair users have a catastrophic service failure. They're waiting in some cases weeks, 6 in 10. What other industry can tolerate that? We'll need the clinician voice and clinics involved in this change. And we know lawmakers are starting to take notice of the cries of the users in this. It's not good enough for Catherine or my son, for our users, for our friends, and it doesn't reflect the hard work of the people who are here today. So we all must keep pushing forward. Lucy was started from a lived experience. The pillowcase is an analogy and one thing, but when it comes to safety and innovation, the need is much more urgent. My car has a bumper. Catherine is her wheelchair's bumper, her knees and toes, her head and hands. Cars have safety systems, emergency braking systems, airbags, sensors, and steel. Wheelchairs have people. The status quo is that forces and collisions on wheelchair users exceed federal law for cars in crashes. The status quo is unnecessary injuries and even fatalities that for too long have been accepted, or maybe we pretend it's okay, but it's not. And solving it isn't a party trick. It requires real world advanced technology. Let's look at that. Sorry to do math so early. A power chair can take 6 to 9 feet to stop. You can look it up in the manual of your favorite chair. Someone with a quick reaction time, no cognitive, visual, or physical impairments, will need another, say, 3 feet just to react for reaction time. So that's 9 to 12 feet the chair travels. So for anything that's claiming to be a safety system, it needs to be looking out to where the chair can travel in 1.5 seconds. Now with my daughter's reaction time, we're talking almost 15 feet. So looking 12 inches out or 2 feet out, it's laughable. We have to think like a mobility device. Where can the chair be in that short amount of time? The problems are hard, but they can be solved. If you right now were sitting in a rolling wheelchair and I yell, "Watch out," it would go a distance before it would stop, depending upon speed, of course. And so if you just look around you and in your mind pace off 9 feet, 6 feet, whatever you think, how many things could you hit? Or would you be in the next room or into a wall? Federal law was changed to require backup cameras in cars because there were 15,000 accidents a year, 15,000. And the industry saw to it. So we don't have to act like it's okay for people that are using our products to have to pay this collision and injury tax if they want mobility. That's ridiculous. Some statistics have shown over 175,000 ER visits due to wheelchair injury a year. And that's an old enough statistic that I know two things. One is the number has only grown because the market has been growing. And two, until Lucy, there wasn't anything that was going to change it. 3.3 million wheelchair riders, that's 1 in 20. 1 in 20. What other industry or product can tolerate that kind of safety record? As a point of reference, motorcycle injuries are half that number every year. There is a growing liability issue, which is becoming a credibility risk. Users and caregivers are asking for real solutions to urgent problems, and that's what we're working on. So they asked me to talk a little bit about new Lucy plans. Well, the Lucy safety system continues to improve. Lucy Air, we just announced. Soon there'll be a 360, surround visualizer like you might have in your car that'll be on the app. And this is something that's not released. This is not a product yet. And so I want to be very clear about that. It's not a product. This is something that we started working on and meeting with certain user groups. They were like, I wish I could have certain places where the chair would assist me in a special way. So this is just an internal report video, but it shows something cool and it's early in the morning. So I thought we should show you some things that can be done with an actual smart product. So I'm going to try to do this. And you would think a tech guy would be better at it. Here's a little video, one moment. I'm going to share screen. And it's here. There. All right.
Lucy Ramp Assist uses tags on the ramp to make navigating up and down van ramps safe and easy. Lucy Ramp Assist recognizes the tagged ramp, asks you if you want to engage,
starting ramp assist,
and if you say yes, it aligns and drives you up the middle of the ramp, every time. Tag stickers apply directly to your van ramp. Lucy's cameras see the tags when you approach. If you choose to engage Ramp Assist, just push the joystick forward. Lucy Ramp Assist aligns you and drives you up the ramp. If you let off your joystick at any time, the chair will stop moving. Ramp Assist uses tags to see and navigate the ramp, but automated features aren't a substitute for a real safety system. That's why Lucy's award-winning safety features are on while Ramp Assist is active. Lucy's always on the lookout for edges and drop-offs, as well as unexpected objects or people that may cross your path when going up or down the van ramp.
Well, I'm not very good at technology sometimes, am I? But we wanted to show that to you just to show you that we're constantly working on new things. This isn't a pipe dream. This is what it looks like when people build to the need, not to the code. When something is built with world-class technology standards, when it's a platform. And so as a dad, I keep challenging our team. And as a dad, I challenge you to do the same. We're so grateful for your work with us and our families as a clinician. You change lives, as you know. But you're also something more that you may not be thinking of. You're the key to a multi-billion-dollar industry in the US alone. You might think I would say that the person in the chair is that person, but that's not entirely true. They need you. Without your role in approving and signing that letter, an entire industry comes to a stop, which means you have influence. It means you can insist on change. You are the advocate for the client, for the person who has mobility challenges. That's how you're seen. And the sales ATP is a great help. But formulas, quotas, company demands, and throughput, commissions don't make themselves. And I want to jump in real quick and say, I have met incredible ATPs, wonderful ATPs we've met in the last couple of years. And so I mean no disrespect. But the clinician is doing the weekly, monthly, yearly involvement with the client. And maybe more importantly, the client thinks the clinician is their advocate. The client, especially the first-time client and caregiver, we don't understand how the system is run. We've never heard about the in-home rule and the home rule. And I wouldn't have believed it if you'd have told me. We don't know that clinics sometimes choose to work with only one brand of supplier. We don't understand, as one Resna clinician recently said, that who writes your letter determines your quality of care. And so does which provider you give that letter to. We don't know the risks, the liabilities and dangers we are about to experience. We don't know about how hard it can be getting it fixed. We can't comprehend how a thing could be medically necessary and then the repair of that thing not be covered. And I've been there in that room. You're struggling with a diagnosis and you're trying to calculate what it means for your child, for your family, or for your friend. So you hand over the insurance card, you pick a favorite color. We don't even need a brochure, right? We just look to you as our advocate. We don't even know that we're a customer, but you do. You do know all those things, and you can and you do help change it. You help us through it. You demand choice so that users and caregivers can make informed decisions and have options. And you can demand that suppliers participate in outcome measures so the industry can grow and we can have more research to do better. You can make sure your clients are informed of the possibilities and options. You can fix so many of the broken parts of the system. Sometimes it may not feel that way, but you are very powerful in this industry and can do it. So I urge you not to lose sight of the people. I thank you so much for all you mean to the people and families you help, like mine. I want to encourage you that your efforts as an advocate and an ally to dads like me and moms like Jen and daughters like Catherine and sons like my Alex, it matters. It matters now more than ever. And I'm so grateful I get to be here with you. I'm so honored, but thank you for your time. And I hope you have a wonderful ISS, and soon enough, we'll all be together. And I look forward to meeting every single one of you. And we're so excited you're here. Come see us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barry. Great way to kick us off, talking about the need and not the code. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Kendra Betz. As Barry mentioned, she's a physical therapist and RESNA credentialed assistive technology professional who has worked for the Veterans Health Administration since 1993, with experience ranging from frontline clinician to national executive. She holds an adjunct faculty position at the University of Pittsburgh and teaches regularly at national and international forums. Kendra's areas of clinical specialization and passion include spinal cord injury rehabilitation, assistive technology, adaptive sports, and patient safety.
Thank you for the introduction, Rachel, and thank you to the ISS team for having me here. Welcome to everybody who's joined us from across the globe. It's a great kickoff so far to the International Seating Symposium, broadcasting live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it's great that we're finally able to gather, at least virtually, to enjoy a great conference. So again, thank you for having me. We're going to talk about the concept of high reliability healthcare with global implementation for wheeled mobility and seating. And I think that you'll find that the concepts that we'll share will tie right in with the illustrious Barry Dean and his comments. And he is definitely a tough act to follow. And I'm honored to come right after him with this next keynote lecture. So jumping right in, I would like you to either close your eyes and feel yourself being centered, or to just look ahead at this beautiful scene of where we would all like to be after the amazing ISS conference is done. Mindfulness has gotten us through this pandemic to the point where we are now, where we're really looking at resilience and sustaining our emotional and mental and physical well-being. But I want you to think ahead and imagine working in this global industry, supporting our common clients with the wheeled mobility and seeding interventions that they so much deserve and need. And determining a common and agreed upon standardized approach, not only to how we provide care, but how we do business and how we communicate with one another. To have an understanding of all of the critical roles that each individual plays in this very complex process, and to appreciate the complexity and the involvement of each of those stakeholders with their particular roles as part of the team. To work in an environment where it is safe to let folks know that you made an honest mistake, to share those mistakes, and to discuss them so that we can all learn from that incident and make sure that we put systems in place so that the same kind of mistake or the same type of mishap doesn't happen again. To have a mutual respect and a commonality that we can all believe in and support one another. And perhaps most importantly, to always be accountable to ourselves and to others within the team that we're working with to support the important work that we do. So it might seem, like that's a pretty grandiose idea. We all love and appreciate our work, but that's a lot to accomplish in coming together with a standardized approach with how we take care of the individuals that so much need our attention and support. But we can do that with the concepts of high reliability organizations and the approach that inherently carries with that. And today we're going to go through some of the key principles of high reliability and see how they apply to our everyday work. To look at the background of high reliability organizations, or affectionately HRO, or acronym of HRO in healthcare. This concept is everywhere. If you haven't heard it, take a look on the internet, search it. Here in the United States, the Joint Commission, which is our accrediting body for all of our medical facilities and healthcare systems, embraces high reliability as an approach for delivering high quality healthcare that is supportive of the individuals who work in that environment, but mostly for the individuals that we serve. The Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, or AHRQ, also embraces the concepts of high reliability so that we can embrace and develop that standardized approach that is consistent across systems of care and across the entire country, obviously applicable across the entire world. And on the right of the screen, you see a publication that is available, free download on the internet. This is an evidence synthesis program publication that is about the wealth of information and the evidence that's been published about implementing high reliability principles in healthcare organizations. And this was emphasized by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, for which I am fortunate to have spent my entire career. And I just wanted to comment that I wanted to acknowledge the VA for its leadership in implementing a national rollout of high reliability concepts across our entire system of care of over 1,000 sites of care for taking good care and providing quality services for the veterans that we serve. So I'm proud to be a part of that agenda. Internationally, the World Health Organization has also embraced the concepts of high reliability organizations. Back in 2019, they announced the JEDA Declaration on Patient Safety to shape safer systems for future generations. And what's really exciting about this is, as Rachel introduced me, I do work for the National Center for Patient Safety for the VA, and very exciting to be part of this movement where patient safety, instead of being shoved in the back and let's not talk about things that go wrong, we're really promoting patient safety across all systems of care. And this particular conference carried a theme for promoting patient safety in low and middle income countries. As you can see, I know it's difficult to read the small print, but we had 30 ministers of health and nearly 50 national delegations in Jeddah, which is in Saudi Arabia. And they attended the 4th Global Ministerial Summit on Patient Safety. Something that's real exciting in terms of they outlined 8 themes or key objectives for the 4th Global Ministry on Patient Safety. And you'll see that they are numbered 1 through 8. The first one is to integrate patient safety as an essential domain while aiming for universal health coverage. And of course, number 2, as I highlight, to study high reliability organizations and learn from safety practices endorsed by other industries. And so you can go through and see the importance of the additional 6 objectives for the conference. But what we're going to do today is just launch into how can we apply these HRO concepts that have already been living and implemented in other industries. How do they apply to the healthcare industry? And most specifically, how can we apply the concepts of HRO to our work in wheeled mobility and seating? So with that, we'll jump right in. There's 5 characteristics of high reliability organizations. There's a number of different premises for which the program and the approach is built. But I want you to really be thinking about these 5 characteristics. We'll provide an overview and then we'll go through examples of how this can be implemented with our everyday work. The first is sensitivity to operations. And basically it supports each of the individuals that we're working with to be mindful of the people and processes so that we have an appreciation of how things work from the beginning to the end without skipping key pieces in the process. The second is preoccupation with failure. So basically we're always on the ready that something's going to go wrong. And I really like the term to have a laser sharp focus on catching errors before they happen so that we can support safety at all costs. The third is reluctance to simplify. And what you'll find is that we work in complex systems and therefore we expect complex solutions. And when there's a challenge, we want to get to the root cause. What really caused this issue to occur or allowed this incident to happen so that we can identify those issues and address them so that they don't become a repeat or a more significant challenge. The fourth is commitment to resilience. And that's really learning from our mistakes, bounce back, get back on track. Don't look to the past, but look to the future to make our systems more robust and safe for all that we serve. And the fifth, last but not least, is deference to expertise. And that is empowering and valuing the expertise of every individual on the team, in the room, on camera, everyone involved in the team, because we have to respect different perspectives, different insights, and really learn from each other so that we can coordinate appropriate care for everyone that we're taking care of. So we'll look at the other industries that we work that we're aware of and do some applications into seating and wheeled mobility. So when we're looking at sensitivity to operations, we'll look at each of these one by one. And what happens is if you look to the right of the graphic, you kind of see an explosion or something bad would happen. And oftentimes we look at that from the beginning and at the end, something occurred that created an adverse event. And what we really need to take underway in order to understand the steps in the processes is to understand what happens through the tunnel along the way from beginning and then step by step by step by step along the way so that we can identify at what point in the process was there an opportunity for a mistake to be made or for an error to occur or for an incident to take place in that particular environment. And based on having that point of view, we can gain a better understanding of where the implementation, where the intervention is necessary to address that point in the process and impact a positive outcome or at least negate a follow-on or repeat negative outcome. I think about looking at the complexity of the process as well evidenced by our RESNA service delivery process with the position paper and really looking at all of the components of the different pieces, beginning with the assessment, going through equipment recommendations, looking at funding and procurement sources, moving through the selection, the fitting and adjustment, all the way through requirements for maintenance and repair and also for outcome measurement. That basically at any point in the process, we have a number of stakeholders that are involved. And at any point in the process, there could be a missed point. There could be a mistake that was made. There could be just a missed opportunity that could result in a less than optimal outcome for the individual. And that's where we really want to be aware of the complexity of the process, all of the people involved, so that when there is an opportunity to either make a mistake or an error or prevent that from happening, we have the opportunity to intervene for that prevention. When we look at the second principle, which is preoccupation with failure and really having that laser sharp focus on catching errors before they occur, I really like this quote that says, high reliability organizations regard the absence of surprises as a reason for anxiety rather than a justification for complacency. And if you think about, have you ever had a sense of, everything's going well? Work's going well, the kids are doing well, finances are good, haven't had any major issues with the vehicle. And just when everything seems to be going well is when you should be on the ready. It's about time for something to go wrong. And that's kind of that absence of surprises as a reason for anxiety rather than a justification to just keep sliding through. In terms of an industry that embraces this kind of preoccupation with failure, we think of the automobile industry. And in the automobile industry, they have systems in place for providing notices, for providing alerts when maintenance is needed. So whether I get an alert on my dashboard, whether I get a notice in the mail or by email or by any type of social media, the automobile industry has built itself upon the premise of something is going to happen, and we have the opportunity to address that issue before it becomes a disaster. So in the same context, we can think about our work with people who use wheeled mobility devices and the need for routine maintenance and repairs. So if we can model ourselves with the automobile industry and have systems in place where we know and we receive information that it's time for more gas, it's time to change the oil, it's time to get the tires rotated, it's time to bring the device in for a look around to make sure that something's not occurring that we're not aware of, we should have the same interaction and interventions in place for our individuals who use wheeled mobility for their everyday existence. I think there's a significant amount of innovation. Mr. Dean referenced innovation and some of the barriers to innovation. I think we're just getting started, and we have a long way to go with approaching wheeled mobility technologies in the same way that we can model after the automobile industry. Moving on to HRO principle number 3, and that is reluctance to simplify. And it's really, when you work in complex systems, there's never a simple solution. And so when you look at this maze, the solution is not going to be getting through this complex maze in a straight line, but rather getting through the complex maze will require a complex set of maneuvers and steps in order to find your way to the other end. And it's the same thing in healthcare. We work in complex systems, healthcare as a whole, no matter what country you're working from. We work with patients and people with complex problems, and we work in an interdisciplinary team, which in itself creates a complexity. So when we look at other industries, one that comes to mind is the nuclear power industry, where we can all acknowledge, again, across the globe, it is a heavily regulated industry because if something goes wrong, there is likely to be a disaster with many people being harmed and a challenge to recover from that harm. While it may not be on the same scale, I think of working with our clients with very complex disabilities as those same type of challenges in working in complex industries, because these people have unique needs. They need a combination of technologies. They have to have that combination of technologies interface with a variety of environments, their home, work, school, transportation, everywhere that they need to go, everything has to interact. And I think most critically, that when something goes wrong for this individual with a complex disability, a disaster may ensue, just like that could happen in some of the industries that we draw the parallel for high reliability principles. The other component of really relying on reluctance to simplify is in our wheeled mobility industry is relying on our international and national standards organizations for the testing of devices so that we can be assured that they are safe, that they perform well, and that they're durable to stand the test of time. So this is just one example of the International Standards Organization standard for wheelchairs, and to highlight that we also have standards for wheelchairs and related seating, support surfaces, transportation, and air travel, just to name a few. It's really important that we're asking about the devices that we're providing. Has this device been tested? And how can you demonstrate as the manufacturer that your product is going to hold up and sustain the test of time for these individuals who are so dependent on the reliability of those devices? Moving into HRO principle number 4, which is commitment to resilience. And I think about the airline industry, where our pilots, who are responsible for hundreds of people that are being transported from one place to another, whether it's a short hop or all the way across an ocean or halfway around the world. They practice in simulation training so that they are always on the ready and have a competency to move forward with that new device, with renewed training and awareness of the systems that are in place to manage that airline. We use checklists, they use checklists, I should say, and they go through that checklist with every single flight to determine that the device, the plane is ready, that the people are ready, and that all systems are go before engaging in that particular flight. Similarly, we should be using the checklist with the standardized care that we are agreed to provide, so that we are performing the same elements of an assessment, of equipment selection and configuration, of wheelchair skills training that are inherent to using a device appropriately, to outcome measurement, and to the preventative maintenance and management that's necessary for all of these devices. And I have this photo up in terms of teaching wheelchair skills, and I think that it's one of the areas that often gets overlooked. And sending an individual home or away with their device and not checking that box that all skills and training have been provided could result in an adverse outcome for the individual. And again, I want to encourage us to refer to that checklist and make sure that we're meeting every standard so that we can keep the clients that we work with healthy and safe and able to focus on their everyday life instead of the adverse events that hold them back. With HRO principle number 5, it's deference to expertise. And I wanted to take this one back to the healthcare industry. And if you've worked in an inpatient setting, I have a sincere appreciation for the nurses and for the staff that manage IV medications. They are the experts in their particular area, and I defer to their expertise for managing those complex devices. And as you can see in this picture, multiple medications of multiple dosages that have to be just right. There's no opportunity for mistakes, or there could be a dire consequence. Similarly, when we're working with deference to expertise in wheeled mobility and seating, we need to recognize the complex and robust membership on the interdisciplinary team. We have the clinicians that are involved, whether it's the therapists who are doing the everyday care with the clients, the mobility and seating specialists, we have primary care providers, we have suppliers, researchers, data collectors, those that are testing the devices, our manufacturers, and all of our counterparts, not to leave anybody out. But each of those professionals brings something to the table, and always the client is at the center of that approach, so that we are always keeping them focused and always checking in with the client to ensure that we're meeting their need and allowing them to participate to the greatest extent that they wish to participate. In terms of HRO, there's also a concept of just culture. And that we'll explain in a follow-up presentation this afternoon, but it's really being able to work in a safe environment where sharing our mistakes supports learning from those mistakes and improving systems that we work with. This is a great quote. The single greatest impediment to error prevention in the medical industry is that we punish people for making mistakes. And it really is stifling to punish people for making mistakes when we have so much to learn and improve along the way. In terms of implementation of that HRO and just culture, it's absolutely critical that we have leadership commitment across all aspects, whether that's clinical leadership, business leadership, research leadership, all of the pieces. We need to have a leadership commitment. We need to create and foster a culture of safety, and we have to always be looking ahead to continuous process improvement to make systems safer for the care that we provide. So at the beginning of the session, I asked you to imagine what was possible if we could come up with an agreed upon approach for taking good care of the people that we care so much about. And I think with implementation of high reliability principles, we have the opportunity to do that, not only here in the United States, but across the globe. For more on this topic, please join us at IC25, where we're going to talk more about evaluating adverse events related to wheeled mobility and seating. So whether you join us in person, virtually this afternoon, or watch the recording, we look forward to hearing from you and sharing your ideas. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kendra. Our last presenter is Dr. Brad Dicianno, the Medical Director of the UPMC Center for Assistive Technology, Director of the UPMC Adult Spina Bifida Clinic, Medical Director and COO of the Human Engineering Research Laboratories, and Medical Director of the VA Center for Excellence on Wheelchairs and Associated Rehabilitation Engineering. His clinical interests are in the areas of spina bifida and assistive technology. His research interests focus on developing and studying interventions targeted to improving health and wellness in individuals with complex disabilities.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really honored and pleased to be here today with all of you. I wish I could be in person, but I know that a lot of us have faced a lot of personal and professional challenges during the pandemic. So today I wanted to approach this by providing an air of optimism about the innovations and opportunities in the field of telehealth that have arisen during and as a result of the pandemic. So today we'll be talking about telehealth in 2022 and what to expect in the years to come. First, just a couple of disclosures. I've had funding from both NIDLR and also the VA to support research projects on telemedicine and wheelchair policy that have direct relevance to the content of the presentations. First, let's talk about the telehealth market, which is expected to grow at a rate of more than 28% from now until 2026, from 10 billion to 43 billion US dollars. The teleeducation market similarly is expected to grow at a rate of about 20%, and face-to-face visits account for about half of the market of telehealth. By 2021, 22 states had changed their laws or policies surrounding telehealth to increase access to audio-only services, reduced cost barriers for patients, and to equalize reimbursement between telehealth and in-person visits. Investment in digital health by venture capitalists jumped to 14.6 billion US dollars in 2020, and that was compared to only 6 to 8 billion in the prior 3 years. The VA is and has been a leader in telehealth providers in the United States. By 2016, the VA was serving already over 700,000 veterans through telehealth. And this rose to over 900,000 by 2019. And by 2020, the VA saw over a 1,600% increase in telehealth visits during the pandemic. And at its peak, the VA was doing more than 41,000 telehealth visits per day. In our own research here at the VA Pittsburgh and University of Pittsburgh showed that when telehealth was used for wheelchair assessments, veterans had similar improvements in mobility outcomes, regardless of whether their visits were in person or done through telehealth. But telehealth may also confer some advantage for improving transfers. Our data showed that because the ability of the provider to assess the person in their home environment, transfers were seen to improve in telehealth visits compared to in-person visits. We also saw high levels of client and provider satisfaction with telehealth, not just in our own study, but that's also been consistent across the board in other studies, both inside and outside the VA, but also within other areas within rehab. Our data also showed that on average, veterans saved about 68 miles of travel per telehealth visit. The availability of telehealth infrastructure that already existed both within the VA and also in the private sector allowed for the rapid deployment of telehealth services as soon as the pandemic hit. This allowed many clinicians and hospital systems to continue to be efficient while providing routine outpatient care as they dealt with high numbers of hospital and ICU admissions. For example, at UPMC, telemedicine appointments began rapidly occurring and almost completely replaced in-person outpatient appointments. This also mirrors what we've seen in the US nationally, where telehealth encounters began to replace in-person encounters elsewhere. This example that I'm showing here is from One Community Health, which has providers in 47 different states. And by April of 2020, over 50% of their visits were being done through telehealth. For underserved communities, like those also served by One Community Health in the Pacific Northwest area, the proportion of visits that are done by telehealth have been even larger. Here, over 70% of visits. In a survey study conducted by the VFW in 2020, veterans reported that nearly half of their routine appointments were converted successfully to telehealth at the beginning of the pandemic within the VA, and a slightly lower percentage converted for appointments done outside the VA. Telehealth claims across multiple insurers peaked around April of 2020 and has remained stable since then. But you'll notice that the rate of claims for telehealth visits is now 38 times baseline before the pandemic. In a study of primary care providers, which was done in Columbus, Ohio, no-show rates for in-person appointments in their office pre-pandemic were about 32%. And this rose to 36% during the pandemic for those in-office appointments. But for telehealth visits done during the pandemic, their no-show rates was only 7%. So this shows that the ability for telehealth visits to sustain a constant stream of appointments is consistent across many institutions. And that's what we've also seen in the CRT industry as well, which, as everyone knows, has a consistent history of high no-show rates for in-person appointments. When we look at telehealth usage by specialty, you'll see that psychiatry, substance use disorder treatment, endocrinology, and a few others have the largest footprint in terms of the percentage of visits that are being done through telehealth. But the field of rehab and AT assessment is growing. When we look at clients and caregivers, we know that they've advocated for telehealth as being indispensable, not only during the pandemic, but as a long-term need. However, at the same time, there's obviously situations where in-person visits are needed and telehealth cannot be substituted for appropriate medical care. So clients have advocated for, and in some cases been successful in, creating laws that equalize the costs of and reimbursement for in-person and telehealth visits. And this cost structure then allows clients and providers to choose the type of visit that is appropriate for the appointment and the issue at hand. Providers are now conducting 50 to 175 times more telehealth visits compared to before the pandemic. And 57% of providers view telehealth more favorably now than they did before, and 64% are more comfortable using it. Clinicians have also faced challenges on how to assess clients remotely. Some protocols for assessing clients in a virtual format existed before the pandemic, but many more were rapidly developed and deployed during the pandemic. This has included fields of PM&R, neurology, cardiology, orthopedics, urology, and many others. And through these standardized assessments, clinicians have been able to assess patient function and even collect certain outcome measures virtually. And these protocols also help drive formalized education programs so that trainees can participate in these assessments virtually and learn from the virtual format. What's really exciting is that there have been many innovative ideas and products developed by clinicians, ATPs, and researchers to improve the workflow of telehealth assessments. Researchers at Johns Hopkins, for example, developed a screening tool to assess a client's risk of having technical difficulties during a video visit. And this is used to triage and plan appointments. It's called the Video Visit Technical Risk Score and can be embedded within Epicare. Protocols to aid decision-making about which clients are appropriate for telehealth encounters have also been developed by the CTF and also through our research here at the VA Pittsburgh and University of Pittsburgh. We've developed checklists of supplies and lists of duties and competencies that help prepare teams doing telehealth visits to conduct them remotely. We also, through our work, have learned the barriers of carrying out telemedicine visits, but at the same time, we've learned that virtual assessments provide a unique opportunity for us to assess a client's home accessibility and provide multidisciplinary care with all team members present in one visit. So this can ultimately lead to faster delivery of the equipment to the client. And although clients themselves face many barriers to using telehealth, such as digital access, in our work and others, ATPs have brought telehealth equipment into the home and operated it for the clients, which really provides a client-centered approach to the assessments. Although research in telehealth is still developing, 2 systematic reviews on telehealth interventions suggest that telehealth can result in increased communication with providers, better health outcomes, and lower healthcare utilization and cost. The longer the client is engaged in telehealth, in other words, over multiple telehealth visits, a positive outcome is more likely from those visits. And while many studies have used small samples, research suggests that these outcomes might be more substantial if those telehealth models are scaled to larger populations. In a rapid review, which was a review of other systematic reviews and meta-analyses of research on telehealth interventions and assessments done in different fields, telerehab interventions were shown to produce equal or better outcomes than in-person care. Types of patients, providers, and outcomes were really diverse across the different studies in this analysis. And overall, it was found that the evaluations done through telehealth actually take more time than those done in person. When we turn to consumer advocacy organizations, 35 have developed a policy called Principles for Telehealth Policy. And this policy looks at promoting several principles of the delivery of telehealth. This includes promoting financial models that maximize client and provider decision-making without the influence of cost. It also advocates for equity in insurance coverage, client access, and client rights. During the public health emergency, providers have been permitted to use telemedicine systems that did not necessarily comply with HIPAA, but in those cases were required to obtain client consent to use those platforms. A survey done of the CRT industry showed that, except for FaceTime, which was used temporarily at the beginning of the pandemic, most AT clinics reported use of systems that were either already fully HIPAA compliant or that were offered by companies willing to enter into a HIPAA Business Associate Agreement, or BAA. And choice of platform for AT clinics has depended not only on whether those platforms are HIPAA compliant, but also on whether those systems integrate into the electronic medical record. Those systems that do integrate into the EMR are more expensive, but they afford many benefits, such as accessing patient records, documenting and ordering prescriptions or referrals at the same time as you're video conferencing with the client. In some cases, these systems also help automate scheduling of appointments. On the other hand, many of the systems that do not integrate with the electronic medical record are less expensive. And also, these are the ones that are more familiar to patients and clinicians. And in many cases, they may be more accessible. So for instance, they may provide a platform for ATPs to join the visit as their own separate session. However, providers in these cases have to log into the electronic medical record separately, which may be an additional burden for them. If you want to develop a successful telemedicine program or want to improve your telemedicine program, but aren't sure how to do that, there are playbooks that exist that are really useful in helping to structure these types of programs. There's one published by the American Medical Association called the Telehealth Implementation Playbook. And there's also something called the Better Care Playbook, which includes a lot of articles, toolkits, and suggestions that help you make your programs more efficient and successful. And the Better Care Playbook in particular is focused on patients with complex care needs, disabilities, and chronic conditions. So they have a lot of really relevant information for the CRT industry. So where do we go from here? This is my roadmap for the future. Certainly, clients and caregivers should continue to advocate for access to and changes in policy regarding telehealth, but should also participate in program development and research whenever possible, because we need our programs and digital health tools to be very client-centered. Clinicians and ATPs should first and foremost follow best practice when it comes to wheel mobility and seating evaluations. So they should realize first and foremost that telehealth is just a tool, and we should use resources like the Resident Wheelchair Service Provision Guide to make sure that we're including all of the key aspects of the evaluation process. But also clinicians and ATPs should create and use innovative health tools and protocols in their telehealth assessments. They should collect outcome measures so that we can start to gather data on our evaluations. They should be sure to use HIPAA compliant software and be knowledgeable about when implementation of BAAs are necessary to secure patient privacy and security. And clinicians and ATPs should also support projects that promote EHR interoperability. So this allows us to move more towards paperless systems and do everything electronic. Policymakers should make permanent changes in reimbursement policies that promote equity and access to telehealth across different client populations, and should also facilitate permanent telehealth licensure for our providers. This also would require interstate licensing for providers so that evaluations can be done for clients across state lines. Educators can integrate telehealth protocols into the educational curricula for their trainees. Researchers should involve clients and caregivers in the design of telemedicine software and programs from the very beginning, so that again, these digital health tools can be client-centered. Researchers should also promote use of uniform data set and outcome measures in their work. They should carry out studies with more rigorous designs, and that includes using techniques like implementation science approaches, where we study outcomes like measuring dose and exposure, measuring access, cost, and quality of care. And finally, I also suggest reading this Viewpoint article published in JAMA, which is a roadmap for digital equity. It outlines how all of us, no matter our role, can improve technology access, digital health literacy, and inclusive design, and has a lot of really useful suggestions for government agencies, vendors, institutions, clinical teams, and our clients. So thank you all for your time today. I wish you a really exciting and educational ISS conference, and I hope to see you all in person at the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Brad, for that excellent talk. Just to wrap up a few things, a reminder that the CEU code is now in the chat in the attendee hub, and the code is 3H5WDT. That's 3H5WDT, and you click on the survey button to the right of the screen in the attendee hub, either immediately or anytime following the session. A reminder to join other live sessions from now until 11:15. From 11:15 to 1, please join the exhibit hall for some exciting live presentations and other ways to interact with our exhibitors. And then again, back to live sessions again in the afternoon. So 11:15 Eastern time, live sessions with the exhibitors. thanks and look forward to seeing you all in the next sessions. We look forward to a great conference, as well as morning and afternoon plenaries on day 2 and day 3.